What did you do before the war?
Before the war,
Yes.
I was a builder.
What did you build?
I built basements, made basements, I was handyman.
How much did you earn?
I earned not bad, you need 20-30,000 here.
Is this enough to live in Chechnya?
Well, it's not enough now.
How much money do you need to earn to live normally?
Do you mean for one person or for family?
Let's start from one person and then we'll talk about the family.
Well, one person needs at least 50,000.
And what about the family?
Approximately 100.
Okay, how did you live earning just 20,000? How did you live earning just 20,000?
I got 20,000 for work. I earned... It's difficult work.
Well, it's great.
Well,
how much did you earn per month?
It's 50, 60, it varies.
In short, there was only enough money for you.
Well, it's not so much that I have to shell out money. It's enough to buy something to eat and something like this.
Tell me about the first Chechen war. Why did it start? What's happened? How did it finish? This is interesting for the people who will be watching.
Well, they declared independence in 1991. It's an independent Chechen republic. At that time, the Russian Federation was not yet. Well, each region chose its own destiny. Jakhar Dudayev came, he was a general, he declared independence. All the people supported him, but some people did not support it. There was an opposition. Then in November of 1994, there was a clash with the opposition. At that time, Khasbulatov was the leader between Dudayev's supporters and the opposition. Then, on the 11th of December, the troops entered.
What year was it? What year was it?
It was in 1994, on the 11th of December, they entered.
Yes, you're right.
Troops officially entered to establish constitutional order.
Yeah, the occupation forces entered.
Yes, it was the occupation forces.
Whose forces were there?
It was Russians.
Well, it's just that all sorts of people are watching there.
The Russian Federation invaded the independent Chechnya Republic.
They invaded Ichkeria, that's right.
And the war started.
How long did it last? What happened?
There were battles everywhere, one could say. Starting from the border with Dagestan, they entered from Ingushetia, and they entered from the Stavropol region. They entered from three sides. There was a battle for Grozny and for Argun, and so it went on and on into the mountains. They entered in March. It was in 1995.
It turns out that for those who don't know their way around, it's from the west to east. Is that right?
Well, they entered from three sides.
Yes.
They went to the mountains.
What was the population of Ichkeria then?
I think there were 1.5 million in Ichkeria at that time.
There were 1 and 2 million, and now there are 1 and 5 million.
Maybe, I don't know exactly.
How long did the army attack? How many were there?
Do you mean Russian?
Yes.
Are there all?
Well, how many thousands of people were there?
Well, in general there was 200, 250,000.
You're right.
Some can say it's 500,000.
Yes, it's right. How much in total was there? What were the results? When did it end? How to say it correctly? Is it the first war?
It's the first Chechen war.
Was it the first Chechen war or a campaign?
It's the first Chechen war.
Because the Ichkerians say it was a war and the Russians say it's a campaign.
No, it was the Chechen war. It was the Chechen war.
Yes, it's right. When did it end and what were the results?
It ended in August 1996.
The war lasted almost 2 years, 20
On the
months.
6th of August, our Chechen fighters entered. It was headed by General Maskadov. At that time, he was a commander. After the death of Jakhar Dudayev, Maskadov was in charge of everything.
Yes, you're right.
I think it was a military
Yes.
operation. Then on the 6th of August, they came in and blocked everyone. Everyone was surrounded. After the ultimate, they came to an agreement. It meant they forced Russia to negotiate and that they leave the Chechen land together with their troops.
What happened?
There were negotiations. After the ultimatum about negotiations, Alexander Lebed came there.
Yes, everyone knows this general.
There were Khasavyurt agreements.
Yes, it was Khasavyurt.
And they left the territory until New Year's Day of 1997.
Yeah, they left. According to the agreement, they were supposed to quit and leave within 3 months. And they left the territory for September, October, and November.
And I think after the New Year's Day of 1997, we already held a referendum.
Wait, what happened before the referendum? What were the military results of the First Chechen War?
The losses were colossal for us and for them.
How many did you have and how many did they have?
Well, together with us, I don't know about the militants, but a lot of the population was killed. Cities and villages were destroyed up to 90%. There were many victims, many missing, many children, many were killed.
Do you remember this number in thousands? How many, they say, were your losses and the occupiers?
Well, at that time I heard it's about 300,000, if not more.
And what about your losses?
There were our
I got
losses.
it. And what about occupiers?
I honestly don't know about the occupiers, but it was clearly noticeable.
The situation, in a few words, perhaps not everyone knows, but they were wiping settlements of the face of theirs. The same thing that's happening to us now. And in their case, it seems they would approach a settlement, a village, and simply bombard it with artillery and aircraft.
Yes, the planes, grads, and tanks.
The planes, grads, and tanks were simply razed to the ground. But agreements were reached, let's call it something like peaceful, but it's not really peaceful, but they moved away. Russia suffered colossal losses at that time and rebellion was brewing. Adding to this, it was the 19th, everyone understands that there is social tension within the country. There were a lot of conscripts, a lot of contract soldiers, there were no prisoner of war exchanges then. And then the parents of conscripts went to your Chechen generals, to your Chechen leaders, and they took back their children. What was next? Let's state the fact then, once again, who doesn't understand, the population of each area was, I think, 1 and 2, 1 and 3 million people. And they fought back against essentially a huge piece of country that tried to invade them. They had unity. Almost 90% of the population could hold a weapon. They took it and killed it everywhere. Just everywhere. Just like that. There are a few video chronicles of this war, but they are almost the same as the conflict in Afghanistan. Can I say like that?
Yes.
The partisan movement was very strongly developed when, roughly speaking, a column would enter some village. And it's locals, because they were visually just civilians, there was no uniform, the locals simply shot with machine guns. Another thing that the First Chechen War was famous for was that the Russians looted a lot. Tell us about this.
They looted and robbed.
They raped and killed people.
They raped and killed without any reason.
Cameras were just starting to appear back then. Cameras were just like this. And there was looting essentially as we had in the Kiev region. All valuable property was loaded onto Kamaz and Ural trucks, and everything was taken away. But I'm not lying.
You're not lying. They were on armored personnel carriers and
Yes,
on Kamaz
there were
trucks.
armored personnel carriers. So the stories about toilets are true, because the Russians are all like that. Because a loser who came from some village and he had never seen anything other than a wooden toilet, even in winter, including at minus 30 degrees below zero. He pours the waste of his life activity out of the windows in buckets. And it's to this day, including in 2024, you can find all of this. I encourage you to verify information, even the one I say and which the prisoner of war says. You can search and Google all this in 10 minutes. All you need is the internet and Google, and that's all. Or maybe you can use Yandex, there are hundreds of search engines. What was the next? They went in January or February. When was the referendum?
It was in January or in March, I think.
The referendum was in 1997. I don't remember, it was in the beginning of the year, I think.
They declared for independence and elected General Askadov.
What was the correct name for everyone? It was Ichkeria.
Yes, the president of Ichkeria. It's Chechen Republic
The
of
Chechen
Ichkeria.
Republic of Ichkeria was proclaimed by referendum.
Yes. President Askadov has been elected, and then they began to somehow get by on their own to somehow survive.
They need to survive because 90% is real.
And there was an economic blockade, and a railway, and a road, and an air blockade.
Yes. Basically, what happened? The Russians were defeated. It's right.
Yes.
They were defeated. They were left without nothing. All they could do was create impossible living conditions in the Chechen Republic of Ichkeria. They created an economic blockade. Basically, they isolated everything they could. You couldn't live or bring in anything. Or it was unreal corruption. Everyone remember those times when humanitarian aid would come there in trucks. Moreover, the most interesting thing is that they also blocked the roads for various international organizations to enter Ichkeria. For those who don't understand, their president is a former general.
Of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, so he's a smart, savvy dude, let's call it that. Let's go further. What happened?
Then we survived how we could. Then we processed oil on our own. We poured gasoline from border to border.
There was a whole era of how they transported oil and diesel fuel on essentially homemade intact fuel tankers and oil tankers and tried to somehow survive. These were hard times for the country that won the monster. Open the map and look at Ichkeria or Chechnya, and then looked at the Russia that was defeated. Naturally, the Russian began to simply destroy them economically. It maximally blocked all initiatives in relation to Ichkeria and vice versa. It's truth. There might be some cutting here because they write to me. Let's continue. What's next?
Further, the situation became increasingly tense. It's into Ichkeria, into Chechnya. Someone didn't like something. Disunity and civil strife have already begun. Civil wars began.
That's right.
Pro-Russian activists have already begun to appear. Some were about Ichkeria, but most were people no longer had anything to feed their families with, so to speak. And the Second Chechen War began. I don't know what it's guilty of, but they went to Dagestan.
When was it?
It was in August of 1999.
Almost 2 years later, they tried to live, to exist. The Russians were putting pressure on them for 2 years, but they began to develop their own clans. Is it correct word? Clan that were financed by the Kremlin. What did they do?
Yes, they wanted to denigrate Ichkeria. They killed and robbed.
So, that it doesn't turn out that I'm speaking in my own words. Did it start the Second War?
The Second War against the Chechen people. They rose so high in the world, and then they started calling them terrorists. All that could be done badly that they, with the consent of the top brass would disappear people.
And now they are disappearing
Yes,
too.
and now at that time they disappeared. And the Second Chechen War began.
How did it start? How long did it last? What happened? How did it end and when did it end?
It started in 1999. Since August, there has been no normal resistance. No one trusted each other. There was mistrust. Many people died. There were purges. In 2000, Grozny was completely surrounded. And the Second Chechen War began, a large-scale one, we might say.
How many Chechen soldiers were there and how many attacked you?
The same army that was stationed outside the Chechen Republic attacked. It's Ichkeria. It's from Stavropol, Dagestan, Mozdok, and so on. It was the same army, only the resistance was much less.
Why was it?
Because there were disagreements among themselves. It was untrust to each other. Moscow has lost power. People began to rebel and they were hungry. They were already hungry but still got tired of it for several years. People slowly began to...
You were broken.
To say my own words, they went beyond the borders as refugees and then came home. Then the Russian Federation has already started issuing passports. It was in 2003, and in 2001, 2002 there were guerrilla wars again. Many young people have already died.
How did the war end?
Security service was created.
What is it called?
The
What is it called?
security service at that time also included the Yamadeyevs and the Kadyrovs.
What about Kadyrov? When did he appear and what did he say?
People supported Kadyrov because Kadyrov said he wanted to end the war. We must live peacefully like other regions. We must live in something like that. And all the people trusted him. People were drawn to him. While Maskhadov and the resistance fighters were in the forest. There were fights there. A peaceful war has already begun in the plains. Well, I mean a peaceful life. Checkpoints, police department, the Ministry of Internal Affairs has already been formed anew.
Can we say that Kadyrov took advantage of the fact that all the resistance forces were in the mountains and seized power?
Well, I don't know how much power he seized, but people supported him. He crossed over to the other side.
Whose side did he go over to?
He crossed to the Russian side. He declared Maskhadov incompetent and that the people were dying. And the Russian government supported him to restore order within.
Let's clarify, which Kadyrov was it?
It was the elder.
It was Elder, that's right. So now those who are simply not interested in politics and do not know the whole truth, now everyone is talking about Kadyrov Ramzan. Is it right?
Then it was Ahmad.
It's important it was Ahmad. Because then the story of Ahmad is a power began. This is in honor of old Ahmad.
Yes. People trusted Elder Ahmad Kadyrov and began to return to the region. Those who did not participate in the murders were amnestied, the militants, and they crossed to that side.
And what happened to those who resisted the Russians?
Well, they destroyed them.
This is all that I say. What will happen to our military if we make some concessions to the Russians? If you take everything he laid out, now apply into our model. In 2014, the Russians attacked Ukraine. It's Crimea, Donetsk, Lugansk. They also wanted Kharkiv and Odessa. They came in whatever they could. It was Chernihiv, they attacked. They were defeated. As well as it was in 1993.
It was in 1996.
It was in 96. No, why was it in 96? When did you win the First Chechen War?
It was on the 6th of August
Yes,
in
it's in
1996.
1996. They were defeated in Chechnya. They retreated. They gathered and for 2 years.
Yes.
It's in their case. In our case, because there are more of us. But some analogies can also be drawn. They are small. It took the Russians 2 years to pull together a reserve, to resume, to pull up equipment, to reformat. In our case, they were defeated in 2014. The active phase of military operations was in 2015-16, and it all came to the end. That's all. They waited 80 years and came to us for the second time. Can we compare with you like that?
Yes.
It's an analogy.
The same picture.
It's the same picture. This is for all those who say that we need to negotiate in 2022. All those who write about agreement are useful idiots or traitors. I would watch the SSU in their place. The SSU should pay attention to all of these commentators, all these opinion leaders, bloggers, and so on. Watch my video about capitulation. That's what it's called, I think. In the Apostol's thoughts, there was some 5th or 6th part capitulation where I clearly understood state facts what Russian proposed in Istanbul. It was pure capitulation. And all those who are now talking that we need to come to an agreement, imagine that we all have someone who is fighting in a war. We currently have about 1 million people under arms, let's say. What will happen to them if the Russians come?
Nothing good will happen in any case.
It's, for example, how was it in your country? What did they do with all those who
Do you
resisted?
mean in the First Chechen War? If they were alive, they arrested them in prison, they destroyed them.
Most of them were killed or went missing, and Kadyrov simply does not allow searching for these burials, where there were simply mass shooting of all those, let's call them militants, who fought in the First Chechen War. Those who were lucky are sitting in prisons, and only now some of them should be released because they were given sentence for 15 to 13 years. You understand what kind of people they will be when they leave prisons, if you remember any photos of your prisoners of war. So here are the story. It's a small clarification. What's the next?
Then the resistance became less and less. Russian power has threatened
There will
it.
be a cut.
Russian power has threatened it, and the revival has begun. They started building the city. Financing started coming in and so on. Then in 2004,
No, please wait. There was building of cities. The restoration has begun.
the restoration
Where
has
does
begun.
Kadyrov get the money?
The Russian Federation financed the restoration. It's Chechen
Yes.
Republic.
For those who don't know, you're all citizens of the Russian Federation who sit and don't interested in politics. Starting somewhere around 1999, you pay a very large tribute. Is it right?
Yes.
You pay tribute so that they can have people don't see it. But open the information about Grozny and you'll be shocked from whether your Mukhasrans is similar to Grozny and to other cities that are built with marble, granite and glass. And I'm telling the truth. I didn't make anything up. This is for your money. The hot region, Ichkeria Chechnya, was bought for money. Kadyrov is endlessly receiving money. And when a few years ago one of the ministers of economy wanted to turn off the tap because Ichkeria is a subsidized region, is it correct?
Yes, it's correct.
But the amount of money that is poured in there, in a sense, and jeeps and palaces and everything else, all these patos and glamour, it's all from your money. These are your unbuilt children's schools, kindergartens, nurseries, and many others. The king bought their peace. The king kept the region in this land, so he straightened his shoulders. He is the collector of Russian lands. What happened next?
What was in 2004?
Yes. To say briefly.
Well, there was restoration, then cities were built, people returned home, the whole process began, everything was getting better. Those who fought against Russia were fewer and fewer. By 2009, in my opinion, all the CTO with the so-called CTO.
Yes, it's CTO. The counter-terrorist operation was completed.
It's officially.
Yes.
And that's how we got the status of a peaceful region.
Yes, but it didn't become peaceful at all. The checkpoints were still there.
Well, yes, they are already modern.
The basements are still there as they were. You will find out all this, you will see all this in the next video with the next Chechen.
Yes. Well, and how else to tell? What else to tell?
It's the life of an ordinary Chechen.
Yes, it's the life of an ordinary Chechen. It's job. And
Why
home.
are all afraid?
What are we
Yes.
afraid? Well, I didn't tell that we were afraid. Well, this is not what the Chechen expected, in short.
What did you expect? What did you get? Let's do it this way.
Well, we expected that everything would be fine. There will be factories, plants, everything is fine, we live. But now it turns out that we are surviving again. We are surviving. How can I? You need to go somewhere outside the borders to earn money. Sometimes there is work, sometimes here is no work in the Republic. People began to travel abroad en masse. However, had money could travel abroad earlier, and now they can't do it. Why? Because one person needs a lot of money to go abroad. In addition to an international passport, money is also needed for the trip. It is still unknown whether they will get there or not. Well, that's how those who remain, I would say, live as best they can. They work as taxi drivers in the service sector, at construction sites, whatever they can. And so, most of the young people at that time got a job in the Ministry of Internal Affairs. They work in the Ministry of Internal Affairs, in the police. And that's it. You can't really live in luxury there. In any case, it's for an ordinary Chechen. There are still many visitors there.
Where were they from?
They were from Uzbekistan, Tajikistan. There are various newcomers who have filled the labor market. We also went to some regions of Russia to earn money. And everything was as usual. It was just quiet and that's it, as they say.